What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 707. Not level 77. We're not talking about Neville today, but we are talking about the hot tags of the week. Smark Out Moment, Smack Talk, usual breakdown of the news, rumors, gossip, TV recap, and so on and so forth. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert E. Felice.
Well, there go all my talking points about Neville.
And Callum Wiggins.
There's levels to this podcast.
There are many levels. Right now, you're on level 1. If you get to level 77 by the end of this, let us know. Also, leave a comment below and tell us what you think about what we are talking about and your reactions to what we are saying and so on and so forth. And keep in mind that you should also hit the like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, hit the share button, pass us around, do all that good stuff that you can see over there on YouTube. And keep in mind, too, that you should click on the join button and help us out on the monetary side of things, as well as the thanks button. The join button has the same breakdown of different tiers as the Patreon does. So if you're listening to this on the audio only platforms, Patreon is another option for you if you are not a big fan of the YouTube side of things. Redbubble and TeePublic is also where you can pick up your merchandise if you want to help us out on that front. And keep in mind, the Discord channels are also where you can chime in with your thoughts about whatever it might be. Share some memes, chat it up during shows, just put out a random discussion about something. Here and there, just go ahead and chat it up there. So also go back and check out the main events that we did this week. We did a mock draft of groups of champions that was somewhat randomized, and then we picked after that, and then we did our mock draft follow-up for that with the fantasy booking matchmaker cards. So if you want to see which teams we got and then what we made out of those teams, those two most recent episodes where you can find that stuff. Let's get into these hot tags. Now, we've had some kind of busy weeks with the hot tags. This one's not as busy, but there are still, of course, some things that we need to address. And I was going to say, let's toss out one of the most important ones, if not the most important one. And let's talk about Liv Morgan. She suffered an injury on this episode of Monday Night Raw. And it was one of those like fluke injuries that it wasn't a matter of Kairi Sane doing anything weird or like she was in some kind of like a hardcore match and something ended up happening there. Just one of those things that happens. I forget even which move it was, but like Kairi's doing
drop to a hold.
Drop to a hold. Yeah, it was like a simple thing. And Liv just falls the way that she normally would to brace her fall and ends up dislocating her shoulder. And she's going to require surgery, if not already have had it. She's going to be out for a while, so they're going to have to adjust quite a bit because she is currently one half of the women's tag team champions, and she was being set up for a rematch for the women's world championship against Io Sky, and there was that whole thing with Nikki Bella setting up something for Evolution. So that's been snake bit from the very start with the whole pretty bad promo from Nikki and, a poor setup for something and then a bad follow up and then an injury. And I already put out a thing about this. This is my assessment that I can't imagine people are really all that much in a disagreement for. But to me, the simplest solution is just if this is a Bella Twins tag title match, if that was their plan the whole time and it wasn't just Nikki in a singles match, you swap Roxanne in. And yeah, it's not as good when it comes to star power because Liv Morgan is a bigger star than Roxanne. But Roxanne being the other half of the tag team champions furthers the story of her trying to swoop in and steal the thunder from Liv Morgan in the Judgment Day. You can get the whole she and Raquel start working together and then Liv gets really upset about that. And if you don't want to tell that story, you could have it be that Raquel and Roxanne drop the titles to the Bella Twins or to whoever else they need to drop it to because they don't work well together. It's the simplest way in any fashion. And if the game plan was to just do Nikki Bella versus Liv Morgan, figure something else for Nikki Bella to do. Or don't have her on the card. I don't know. But I wasn't really interested in a singles match between them anyway. So
don't have her on the card. She'd probably have to draw for this fucking show.
Put her in the Battle Royal or something then, I'm not interested in a Nikki Bella singles match.
Look, far be it from me to have to, I guess, play the default Divas stand for this podcast. I don't know how I got that role, but you can't just say throw Nikki Bella in a battle royal. Like she is like the major draw of this show, and to that I say, if this was a Bella Twins tag team title match, which makes the most sense, yeah, maybe you swap in Roxy, or maybe you pivot. Maybe we pivot completely to Chelsea and the Secret Harvest. She can tell a wonderful story with the Bella Twins, and I think would be just as entertaining in terms of promo work, if not more so in terms of promo work, and the match would be what it is. If the plan was actually just a one-on-one for the women's world title, not to literally say go check out the main event for this week, but I say we swap in Rhea Ripley and just do Rhea Ripley versus Nikki Bella. Just go ahead, do it.
Were you thinking that they were going to have Liv beat Io and then be defending that title against Nikki?
I think it's a wonderful plan B if you cannot get Brie Bella, or like she's just like, nope, I'm not doing it, I'm not ready, or I'd rather support Brian in AEW or whatever. Like, I think it's a wonderful plan.
I mean, I'm still very much of the opinion that it's just Nikki Bella that's come back. It's not going to be Bray at all.
Right.
So I don't assume there's going to be anything for the tag team championships. They're going to have to pivot with Nikki. As much as I agree with Tony that I wouldn't care to see any matches involved in, there's no doubt that she is a draw for this show. She's a draw for a certain generation of wrestling fans. So I think that she needs to be spotlighted in some way. Morgan was a good choice because she is very much a hot commodity. In the last year or so, she's really kind of elevated herself to a true main event or just below main event level, which she never had. She'd always struggled to find herself in that role before. So it's obviously a shame that she suffered an injury at this point when she was going to get a spotlighted match on Evolution. She was going to fight for the women's title in the meantime, not necessarily win, obviously, but get a more featured appearance at that point. So it is then just finding who else would go into that match with Nikki instead. Roxanne is a good way of kind of, I don't know, maybe just, you'd almost tell a story of her almost just stepping in and trying to be who Liv Morgan is. Not obviously dye her hair blonde or anything along those lines, but essentially just try and fulfill her role, take over her spot, give her the other half of the tag team titles. In the meantime, she defends it alongside Raquel for a little while in order to try and demonstrate that she can take her place, have her be a bit more involved in the Judgment Day stuff. Maybe, I don't want to say necessarily get close to Dom, because I think it's getting a bit overdone. The whole everything has to revolve around whoever Dom's in a relationship with, but maybe try and manipulate him a little bit more along those lines. And then you can immediately, when Liv is back and ready to go, you can immediately put them together in a storyline together, which could eventually probably end up turning Liv babyface.
Right.
But yeah, so there is potential, as is often the case with WWE, and a lot of wrestling promotions, not just WWE, but especially in their case, they often do their best stuff, and they often get creative and think well once their back is against the wall.
They fail upward very well.
Yeah, exactly. like they fall into complacency so easily that things just almost run on autopilot. Now they're given something where one of those easy layup plans that they'd had set up has been thrown into disarray. Now they actually have to think. And, it doesn't always work out, but when they're actually tasked to think about something and actually give some thought and effort into what direction we're going to go in now, they usually, they can often come up better than what was originally planned. So I don't know whether it's Rhea. I think the issue with that is that the idea was you do Nikki Bella against Liv Morgan, Nikki Bella's winning that match. You can't commit as well with Rhea. Rhea, you don't necessarily want her losing to Nikki unless you have really big plans with Nikki going straight up towards the world title scene very quickly, which I think is fully dependent on how well she's still performing. Because if she comes back and she just has a bad match at Evolution in her first match back, then you have to pump the brakes a little bit and say, okay, there's only to a certain level which we can elevate her to, because even though WWE isn't as focused on the in-ring stuff as say an AEW is, it still matters. You don't want to have somebody that's not great as a wrestler be pushing towards your world title scene. Although admittedly their WWE champion right now is not a good wrestler. Their former world heavyweight champion is not a good wrestler. So maybe I'm a bit wrong with that assumption. So,
but it's also the heel and face dynamic too. Like if Nikki's brought in with the idea in mind of, let's just assume that it wasn't Bella Twins and it was supposed to be just for some reason, one half of the women's tag team champions is not defending the tag team titles on an all women's show. Like that weird ass booking aside, if it was just Nikki Bella's there to beat Liv, if they put her with Rhea gets cheered by a good portion of the audience. And then you don't want to have Rhea lose a match for nothing to another babyface for no reason, you know? At that point, I almost go, maybe then you throw in like a Kiana James if she's ready to go. And just have like, you know, a random, okay, let's completely pivot to a different feud. But I'm not interested at all in Nikki in a singles match. Like and again, you know, they don't book this for me specifically. If they did, a lot of things would be different. But like, if they go like, all right, well, the plan now is Nikki against Raquel, I'm going to be like, oh my God, I don't fucking care. Can I skip this segment? This is not going to be good. And I'm not going to give a shit whatsoever. Even if it's Nikki against Roxanne, which would be better, I don't care. And I wouldn't have cared about a Liv Morgan and Nikki Bella match either. I'm only interested if the tag titles are on the line. But if they're not, completely do something different. Whether that's, you know, Nikki Bella is fighting, I don't know, maybe somebody from even SmackDown, like Bianca. I don't know, but something I haven't seen before. It's just like in general, I'm just not interested in her.
This discussion is very fun for me because I'm watching your brain like struggle to care at all.
Yeah, it's because he just doesn't want Nikki Bella, and it's one of the situations where, like, I agree with Tony in principle, but then I'm realizing that also in a world where he's running the show and Nikki Bella's not featured in a singles match, he's also in another part of the show pushing both Lexis King and The Miz, and so I'm kind of happy that this is kind of happening the way it's happening. So, because
to me, Nikki Bella is somebody that people will tune in to see. So if you can get her on the show, you're gonna put her on the show. But there's nobody that I would be interested in watching her have a match with in a singles capacity. So to me, I'm like, how do I get her on the show where people would be interested? Because people are interested to see her. They're not interested to watch her in the ring have a barn burner of a match against Julia. You know what I mean?
Okay, I hear you. Trust me, I hear you, and I do agree with you in parts. But I also think that I've completely come around to the idea of, no, they don't just want to see her. Like, you don't understand. This woman is to a generation what Bret Hart is to us. Like, you don't, like, Nikki Bella is legitimately top tier, S tier legend to a good chunk of people out there. She could easily main event this show with Rhea if they wanted to hard pivot and just call it a dream match and be done with it, regardless of who wins.
I look at that and I just go, God damn, if you do Evolution 2 and you waste Rhea on a pointless match with Nikki Bella just for the sake of having a backup plan instead of the Liv Morgan thing, and you had Chelsea Green right there, which would make so much more sense. You know, I think you get as much out of Nikki Bella putting her with Natty and Maxine Dupree against Chelsea, Piper, and Alba than you get out of wasting somebody in a singles match that you could have put elsewhere.
Again, go ahead, Gal.
I was going to say, I mean, essentially, that's what they did for the first Evolution. I mean, they put Nikki Bella in the main event against Ronda Rousey for the title, even though Bella wasn't a active main roster member at that time anymore. So they have a history of just slotting her into a big match.
Yeah.
Do you know
on
where
that show.
Sasha Banks was on that card?
In a tag team trios match with
Natalia.
Yeah, with Natalia and Bayley
Natalia.
against the Riot Squad. So was it the Riot Squad?
Insane.
It was the right squad, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And the
All
only
that
match
to
that we know
say-
for sure that's happening on Evolution right now is JC Jane defends against one of the 4 people from NXT, which we'll talk about a little
Jordan
bit later.
Grace, and it will be Jordan Grace, and Jordan Grace will win.
We'll get into it. But that's the only thing that they've confirmed so far. Like, there is speculation that there's a battle royal just to get everybody else on the card. You can assume that they should, at the very least, have every women's championship defended. Like, that should probably be where Julia and Zelina Vega have their match. It's probably where Io Sky defends the title against somebody, you know, like so on and so forth.
I would honestly, I know it sucks because Liv Morgan laid her out and she can't get her revenge, but I pivot to Tiffany. If you don't have Brie, I pivot to Tiffany because that story, I think, is a lot easier to tell. Like Diva, like that Diva era versus new era Diva kind of thing. That's where I pivot if we're getting a singles with Nikki.
I'd rather that than for Tiffany to face Nia again. And for Nikki to fight somebody and waste that. I'd rather be like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, at least you then combine those two, and then we can get that other match could be something better. Because Tiffany and Nia, again, like, who fucking cares? They've had like 4 matches already. And Nia's not losing that championship unless the plan was specifically, well, Nia's big and she puts up a big fight against Tiffany, and then Naomi cashes in. But even then just fucking have Nikki Bella put up a fight and Naomi attacks both of them and cashes in, you know? Like, we don't need to see Nia against Tiffany again. And I'm a little bit afraid that they're going in that direction.
I think that there's a good chance. I mean, I'm pretty sure they would have done, but have they definitively said that the winner of Queen of the Ring gets the match at SummerSlam?
Yeah.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, King and Queen of the Ring get matches at SummerSlam.
Okay, so in which case you wouldn't have the Queen of the Ring winner, just have the match at Evolution instead.
I thought about it though. Like, that might have been the better.
It would have been.
Or do Queen of the Ring finals at Evolution.
Well, the route's pretty clear then, obviously. Again, we'll talk about it more when we get to Evolution, but I can definitely see a pathway where it's Tiffany and Nia, Naomi cashes in, wins the title, and then immediately drops it to Jade at SummerSlam.
Yep.
See, I mentioned this before, but I fully think this is the one where they're going to drag it out to Mania with Jade and Naomi.
God, I hope not. They definitely don't need to go Mania to Mania with those two. Nobody really, for the most part, needs to go Mania to Mania. Very rare examples that they should, but it's like, that should be like a once in a decade thing that you go from like back-to-back Manias to me.
Yeah.
Again, like, we also don't know, because this just happened on Raw, so SmackDown is tonight, and they could do something on SmackDown that has something to do with this Liv Morgan angle, but I would assume that they probably won't. And it'll probably be just something that they address on Raw, because they're probably still like scrambling to figure out alternative options. And then, yeah, man, why bring the Judgment Day over and Nikki Bella over to SmackDown if you could just wait 2 more days and then do it on Monday? Yeah, I guess we're probably not going to know until then. But maybe tonight they get some kind of thing where, like we said, like Chelsea or somebody is like, I want to pick a fight with Nikki Bella, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. But that sucks that Liv Morgan's injured, because not only is she one of the tag team champions, but she's also one of the most prominently featured people on Monday Night Raw. She's one of the most prominently featured people in the women's division across all brands. She's been consistently very entertaining. She doesn't get to take part in the Evolution thing, which that sucks, because I'm sure that that's something that she was looking forward to. And all around, it's just, it sucks when anybody gets injured in any capacity, but like, damn, you know, it couldn't have been like you get injured after Evolution, right? Or like, yeah, it just has happened to leading into some little stupid superstar showdown type of thing or whatever. It's like, this is a big deal for her most likely, so that sucks.
Although I do want to say, all the ladder matches, you could do Hell in a Cells, you could do all this stuff, and it's a drop to hold on Raw.
Yeah, you never know.
That's the kind of stuff that sticks out to me.
You can fight in an elimination chamber match, and then the next night you are holding out your you're raising your arm in your entrance and get injured or something.
Yeah, you're Sami Zayn about to debut against John Cena, and you hit the steps.
Or Punk jumping out into the crowd or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And last thing I'll say about this is, I see some weird stuff online about Kyrie sometimes. It's just a freak accident, you know? And it's like,
are people trying to blame her for it?
I know she's now been in the ring for 2 freak accidents in the last month, but like, unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast.
There does seem to be a little bit of a black cloud around Kyrie Sane. Like, either she's getting injured by something or somebody's getting injured around her. It's sort of like, it's just that perpetual law of like, God damn, like she's not doing anything wrong from what I could tell, but bad luck's just following her or something. I may as well talk about some other stuff from Raw if we're getting into that. Because the show started with Liv Morgan cutting a promo about that stuff or whatever. So now, whatever the plan was that they wanted to do for Io Sky, they got to figure out something for that too. If that was like, put the belt on Liv Morgan, I doubt it. I assumed that was probably going to be like Io fights Liv, Nikki comes out, costs Liv, and then that is like payback, and then that furthers their thing. Io has been doing fuck all with that title.
Yep.
And I've noticed it for a while, but then when I was writing up something about that, where I was just like, how long has it actually been? She's done nothing with that championship since WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And it's like, goddamn, WWE really just went, okay, well, we'll figure it out. And if we don't, that's fine. We'll do nothing until SummerSlam. I hate it when they do that so much. Just, if you don't have anything in mind for somebody, put the belt on somebody else. If you don't want to book for them. It's not like Io's injured, and it's not like she's a bad wrestler. She's one of the best that they have. Put her in a fucking match.
Yeah, I don't like that stuff with any champion.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like the women are really in need of this spotlight right now. Like, I don't know if you had on the hot tags. I don't think you did. But when Charlotte Flair is doing interviews basically going, yeah, I don't think the women will ever headline Mania again, you know that people are starting to give up. And some of the energy around the WWE women's division isn't there anymore. And I think you've got the perfect women's wrestling champion in Io, and you're not doing anything with it. Like, what the fuck? Use her.
With all that stuff in mind, though, just because we might get some kind of a thing by the next episode of Raw, what would you guys want to book for Io at Evolution?
It's hard to say because I like where they're going. Because I'm assuming at this point, if it's not Jade winning Queen of the Ring, it's Asuka.
Right.
And it's Asuka Io at SummerSlam. But if it's not that, then that'd be a great match for Evolution.
Yeah, I thought that she and Kyrie were going to win the tag titles before Evolution. And that'd be the way that you keep Liv Morgan out of, like, oh, there's going to be a tag title match. Like, you put it on Io and Kyrie. Io's a double champion for a little while. But then in terms of like who I'd want Io to fight, like, you've got, like, you want to do it against one of the top women that you have. Asuka's obviously a great choice if she doesn't win Queen of the Ring. Kyrie wouldn't be a bad shout either. Just do like, oh, I haven't got anyone to face, and like, we respect each other, we're friends, why don't you take the title shot instead? Rhea again is an obvious one if they just decide to run that back, but yeah, then once you hit that point and you know that both Lyra and Becky and Bayley are all surrounded in their own little feud, there isn't really that much depth on the Raw side.
Because you can't go Zoe, she's injured. Natalia's, she's popping up on Evolve than anything.
Yeah.
Maxine, no. Like, realistically, no. Just, seems like a great girl. Not in that position right now. Kiana's not there. Ivy, no. She's not in that position at all. Raquel, no. And then Scarlett doesn't wrestle. So it's like, you got Stephanie Vaquer, who realistically, like, Stephanie and Rhea
a match
would have good matches with her, but like, also, how do you necessarily justify, I lost the Queen of the Ring tournament, but I'm going to get a title shot before that? It's another one of those dumb, like, how many times do they need to keep doing that kind of shit that makes no sense thing?
I was ready to justify it for Asuka. I'll justify it for Stephanie Vaquer. Sorry, I will always say it like that thing. And look, I just want to point this out because I understand where you're coming from, and I agree with you again. But it's really sad that you were just like, Raquel? No.
Yeah.
Who beat Io for the NXT Women's Championship in a featured match at a stand and deliver?
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you take somebody that you were pushing and then you go, I think that you can only ever be a tag team champion, and most of those tag team championships are going to be within like a week.
That in the WWE bubble, I'm really starting to hate that whole like, man, that perception is reality, and if they fumble you, you're gonna struggle to regain a sense of, high level appearance.
You have to wait it out, really. It's a case of, like, once you've reached that point, you have to wait for something to happen, or for whether it's just like one match, one moment, one promo, or just like you start to gain the goodwill of the fans because you've been around for so long.
Yeah. That's
when it starts to turn around. I mean, that's how Mark Henry gets a world title run. That's how Tamina gets cheered at WrestleMania. Like, it's that kind of thing. Raquel's firmly in that spot right now.
Gable too. Tamina. Look at him. Like, Shorty G was, why wouldn't you release Shorty G? Because you're clearly not appreciating his in-ring skills. And then eventually people come around to like, God damn it, can you just fucking push Gable? And then they're like, hey, this Gable guy's pretty good. Yeah, we fucking knew him for 10 years.
Yeah, that's always the story. But then there's always the thing with Gable is like, they'll push him. I almost like get the idea of like when they push Gable, it's almost more like it's a cloak of pushing. It's like, we aren't actually pushing this guy, but we're going to make you think that we're pushing this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, so the old Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the perennial thing.
Yeah, like, I would be down for if Asuka doesn't win the Queen of the Ring tournament, then if the plan is Asuka versus Io at SummerSlam, you can't do this necessarily, but I would be like, why not do Asuka versus Io at Evolution if that's the case? Now, if they do plan on doing Asuka versus Io at SummerSlam, I think Kairi's the best option. Because you can say, well, I mean, technically she beat Liv on Raw, and she is one of the few people that could be like interesting to see up against Io. And that could even lead to like Io and Kairi have a match, Io retains, Asuka's her next challenger. How do the three of them work out that dynamic when they were a part of Damage Control? Like, that could be the best story.
Yeah,
by the way, that story came out earlier this week that in case you didn't know, Damage Control not a thing anymore.
Yeah. They'll be, I'm assuming, allies, but not a team.
Well, you can tell a story of how, like, if you do lead to a Io Sky and Asuka match, then you have Kairi almost like stuck in the middle between them because they're both kind of her tag team partners. But Io and Asuka, even though they're a part of Damage Control, have never really been aligned as a tag team. Like, Kairi and Asuka had the Kabuki Warriors, and you had the Sky Pirates with Io and Kyrie. So they seem like they have more natural tag team partnerships, whereas Asuka and Io Sky was kind of they were there with convenience by being part of the same stable.
Yeah, it's the friend group where one of them's the linchpin.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then when that person leaves to go to the bathroom, the other two are like, so, what do you want to talk about? That's always awkward as all hell.
Yeah. It was up to me, I'd go down the route of having, like, Asuka just misses out on the Queen of the Ring but doesn't get pinned in the... Or I guess she has to get pinned now because of the thing. Yeah. Maybe it's just like, she gets pinned, but like she uses that, she's super frustrated. Maybe have Io come out and try and console her, and then she, missed her in the face. Like, full-blown heel turn. And then they fight at Evolution. You could even have Asuka maybe win the title from Io at Evolution. And then that leads to a three-way match between Kyrie, Asuka, and Io at SummerSlam, where Kyrie's kind of in the middle of, like, does she... Like, even though she's going to try and win the title herself, like, is she on Io's side? Is she on Asuka's side? Like, she's, like, that sort of approach. I think that'd be the most interesting way of approaching things.
I like that idea.
Yeah, no complaints from me. I think we are, as good as all these ideas are, we are kind of forgetting that Rhea's obviously going to be in a featured spot, and I can't think of what she'll do if she's not fighting for the title.
For Evolution or for SummerSlam?
Evolution. Well, both really, but Evolution.
Yeah. Because I'm still kind of thinking that there might just be Io versus Rhea at SummerSlam. And then, I don't know what they do with Rhea at Evolution, but they haven't done anything to be like, it's Rhea versus Io at Evolution, which very easily could have been their thing either. I don't know if that's just because they're like, fuck it, we're going to wait. Because they absolutely love doing that in WWE, where we look back and a month has gone by and then we're like, why didn't they do anything to set that up? And it's like, oh, it's because they didn't want to. They just figured, you've got enough other shit, we'll hold off. Kind of the same as what they've been doing with Io. Like, they've not addressed at all that Io hasn't defended this championship as much as she should have. Because they just don't care. And they just want people to be like, shut up.
That's their Brock Lesnar rule. Brock Lesnar established that champions don't need to defend, so we no longer need to do that. Fuck you.
If we don't have a story for it and we don't care to write something for it, just ignore it. Be a good fan, But like, they're obviously like, they have like Becky and Bayley and Lyra, like they're all tied in together. It would be really weird if suddenly it's just like, and Rhea Ripley's fighting Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental title. It'd be like, wait, what? That couldn't have been the plan, But Liv, at the very least, not going to be competing at Evolution. Maybe they can get her involved as like, coming out for, to be ringside for it or something. But as far as I had seen from some reports, she's being pulled off the road entirely. So maybe not even that, which that sucks. Other stuff on Raw that had happened, going back with that, Asuka advanced to Queen of the Ring tournament. Obviously, we already talked about that. Gunther cut a promo about how, Jay was the better man for one night, but, he wins the title back anyway and all that. Goldberg comes out, does his usual, hey, you're next. Remember that line? And that's happening at Saturday night's main event. We've already talked about that ad nauseum, so we don't need to get too deep into it. Other than, I will say that I usually give my little report here every once in a while when I talk to the guys at the building. I was passed by one of them 2-3 days ago or whatever. He just goes, Goldberg? That old fuck is going to be there? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, it's not going to be good. And I'm like, I know. And then I had to do other stuff, so I didn't get an opportunity to really like sit and talk to him. But at the very least, I know that there's, man on the street. John doesn't like the idea that Goldberg's in there.
I do have something I'd want to say about it, and it's based on an article that I read a little while ago from Voices of Wrestling, which is like, it's a great listen and website to check out if you have the opportunity to have a bit of spare time and you like just reading people's opinion pieces on wrestling. And there's an article they put out about this and talking about the changing perception of age in professional wrestling, or the veteran almost. Whereas, like, they've pushed the idea that veterans have gone from the hunted to the hunters. And basically just pushing the example they used of it is an angle from, I think it was like 87, when they were pushing Greg Valentine. And he was in a feud with Don Morocco for the Intercontinental title. And Don Morocco at the time was being managed by Billy Graham, obviously former WWF champion, like big deal at that time. And in order to build up heat for the match between Morocco and Valentine, they had Valentine attack Graham on a show after a squash match, and like just really lay into him, and he got really great heat with the crowd. And the whole idea was that commentary, I think it was like Monsoon and Ventura, kind of pushing the idea that Graham is kind of like a defenseless old man. Like, not pushing the idea that like he's like worthless or anything, but like the idea is like, oh, he's a great former champion, but he's in no condition to compete anymore, and he's been taken down by this guy, and like he can't fight back. Guess how old Billy Graham was?
That's what I was gonna say.
Is it like 41 or something?
It wasn't that young. It was about 47.
Yeah.
Whereas Goldberg is 58 years old.
Yeah.
And also, not only was he 47, but he was only the top champion in WWE less than a decade prior, and it's like that past time thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, more so than that, he'd only officially retired from pro wrestling or stepped out of the ring a year prior to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, once you retire, you immediately become feeble.
Yeah, so maybe they went too far in the other direction, but it's the idea of, like, you see this segment on Raw, like the Gunther and Goldberg thing, and like as soon as Goldberg's music hits, Gunther kind of seems to visibly shit himself in the ring. And it's like, okay, so this is just a different, and it's, I truly believe this is fully down to the Attitude Era.
Yeah,
it's a full Attitude Era phenomenon of like that period of wrestling was just so popular, and so many people watched it more than any time before or since watching wrestling in general, to the point where those stars are a completely different plane of existence to anyone that's ever come since.
Yeah.
And so you can't treat them as weak in the eyes of just, I guess, the people they're there. And I mean, the guy that's running the show is a full part of that situation. And you know full well that if he had the opportunity and he could still wrestle, he would be putting himself over some of these guys, like Triple H. So
I do think that even without the heart condition, I think he would have done the retirement tour by now.
Yeah, but he would have beaten some people along the way, and he'd still like present himself as, you know, threatening.
Right.
Guys, I know age is very different in this period, but we are in a very difficult situation. It's with a lot of people that, again, this is definitely not just a WWE thing. This is an AEW thing. This is a New Japan thing. This is across the board in pro wrestling. People are wrestling older, which is because they're healthier and they can sustain themselves a lot longer, which is a good thing. But it means that because there is less of a immediate need to transition to the next generation, it means the next generation is consistently being held down by people that won't give up their spot. Or maybe not in the case of like them willingly giving up their spot. It's more of a case of the company doesn't want some of the older people to let go of their spot. It's a mixture of both, one way or the other. But that means that you have guys like, on the AEW side of things, like Chris Jericho and Copeland and Christian stay in top level positions probably longer than they should be. In WWE, you have Cena and Goldberg and Orton and those names that are still hover around top of the card, and it's been that way for 20 plus years. And it just means that the next generation coming up just feels so much lesser than the people that were there before. That's the reason why wrestling has gradually, well, it's not the only reason, but a big reason why wrestling has just felt gradually more and more uncool, is because you haven't built up the next generation of people to feel cool or feel powerful or feel dominant compared to the generation before it, outside of a couple of names. So yeah, this is just another symptom of that. You have like your dominant world champion, your like 30-something-year-old Gunther that's meant to be presented as a big threat, and the 58-year-old guy who hasn't wrestled in 2 or 3 years comes back and he immediately feels inferior to him. He feels like the underdog in that match, even though we know he's going to lose. But it's like it's just the presentation rather than the outcome.
Well, I know we're going long on some Raw stuff, but I also want to piggyback off that because I think it's a huge issue. And I know you got to promote the match and everything, right? But like Goldberg's out here doing interviews like, well, yeah, I know I can only give like 50%, but 50% of my best is better than 99% of the pricks out there. And it's like, what? Like, look, I'm all for it. And I think this goes beyond wrestling. This is a societal thing that we keep pushing back the kind of the age limits and stuff like that. And I'm all for some of that. But at the same time, as Callum just laid out, it was preposterous that like a 40-year-old Sergeant Slaughter would win the WWE title, or like Vince was like, oh my god, old man Vince won the belt at, what was he, 52? Younger than Jericho? I mean, like a good 13 years younger than Sting having his final match.
Or Randy Savage is too old that we need to just put him on commentary.
Right, that's a much better example. Thank you. Randy Savage is too old when it's like, are you kidding me? And the issue is, as Callum said, it's an Attitude Era popularity thing. They fucked themselves for like 20 years almost at this point because they just refused to let anyone be perceived as better than that era of guy. And yeah, like I know, I'm not saying like the Miz should have definitely been pushed at The Rock's level, but it did that era no favors that people were just like, yeah, fuck this guy, we got The Rock. And we got this guy. Triple H can still do WrestleMania and SummerSlam, and that's all you need. And The Undertaker can still do Mania, and that's all you need. Like CM Punk becoming a WrestleMania main eventer at, well, I don't forget how old he is at this moment, but he should have been a Mania main eventer 10 years before that. This thing where you're constantly like, oh, don't worry, you got time. Don't worry, you got time. The fucking Goldberg's limping to the ring. He is limping to the ring, and it's like, it sucks. And yeah, even if it only goes 3 minutes, it still sucks. I thought it sucked. Was it
7 years ago when he couldn't pick up Undertaker?
Fuck that. No, not even that. When, oh my god, nobody can defeat Brock Lesnar. Dean Ambrose came at that man with a chainsaw. Brock doesn't flinch. Old man Goldberg takes off his shirt. Brock is scared shitless. What the fuck is this? It sucked 8 years ago. It sucks now. I'm all for Goldberg being like, my Roman match in Saudi sucked. I want one more. I'm all for that. But I hope that the one more is Gunther gets his win over Goldberg and Goldberg goes out as, he found somebody who is more dominant than him. It's over.
I got no faith this is going to be good. And it's just going to be another one of those like, all right, 2 years from now, we're going to hear again, wow, I didn't really like the Goldberg match. Maybe I think I got one more left in me. It's like, well.
No, I think he's absolutely. The WWE is billing this as it's Goldberg's last match. They've got all the merch saying it's his last match. The other thing I don't like
once in a lifetime.
But didn't he specifically I forget if it was the Roman match or if it was something else, but didn't he specifically do the whole, you're not just next, you're last?
No, it was the first one he did.
Yeah, the first of his retirement matches.
When he came back for Brock, he said, Brock Lesnar, you're not just next, you're last. Because I think he thought, I fucking hate wrestling, and he did at the time.
Yeah.
Remember.
But they just got over. It just got over that match, and they had to just bring him back for more. So,
and not only that, they brought him back for way more than he did the first run. He won like 3 world titles on the comeback run. Like, by the way, they're strongly positioning that he's going to win this one. And
You fucking better not.
well, I've already said that I think he'll
We're all
get
discussion and all.
Yeah, but yeah, it's frustrating for me because why has Chad Gable been in WWE 10 years and you're still saying, I don't know, man, just patience. He's been in the fucking company for 10 years. He's been on the main roster for 10 years. Start acknowledging the passing of time. Start doing that because whether we want to acknowledge it or not, time is passing. And you have to use people while you got them.
Hey, shut up. I don't like that.
Yeah, I know, but that's part of the problem.
Dude, at least he's had some time to actually do stuff on the main roster. I mean, fucking, what's Tyler Bate got to fucking do to just he's been there for 10 fucking years and they just wasted his entire 20s pretty much.
Exactly, because they're like, oh, well, you're only in your 20s, man. Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, just again, don't want to delay with this point, but we haven't got a lot of news anyway, so I might as well grab this. I just want to go through Gunther's matches so far this year. Just because I saw this as a tweet and I thought it was funny, so it's like Gunther's matches this year so far are Jey Uso, Akira Tozawa, Otis, Axiom, Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, Pat McAfee, Jey Uso, and then Goldberg. What a great way to platform one of your best wrestlers.
And look, I understand that the philosophy is different. You know, there's no more house shows and stuff like that. You're trying to save talent. But the problem I have with that is you've got more hours of content than ever before, and you're doing less with certain people than ever before. Mm-hmm. Shit, back in the days when everything was 2 hours or 1 hour, we were getting Triple H on TV every week, Undertaker on TV every week, Cena. And now, these guys who can actually go, it's like, God, listen, we're going to have Gunther fight once in a while. One of those matches will be McAfee. What the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't like it. And then you overwork certain other people and they get injured. There's no balance between typical balance of everything else. How much have we talked about? WWE has more hours than ever and less matches just in general. And yeah, Goldberg. We'll talk about that more with Saturday night's main event. Let's swap over to NXT. Evolution Eliminator matches, as mentioned before, one of the only matches that has been confirmed at this point for Evolution is that JC Jane will defend the Women's Championship from NXT against whoever wins this Evolution Eliminator thing. Side note, when the fuck did Eliminator become the term that everybody uses?
I like it.
I
know what you're saying, but I like it.
To me, Eliminator should be you get eliminated from something. And I think that makes sense in certain contexts. Like the Evolution Eliminator match to be okay, you're eliminated from the running of this and you have to continue to do that. Cool. I don't like it when it's used as you fight a champion and that's an eliminator. To me, that's a qualifier or that's a number one contender or whatever. But they're also starting to pivot over to this idea of a play-in match. They seem like they like that a lot. But that's just me being semantics. But they did 4 of these Evolution Eliminator matches. Jada Parker beats Thea Hale. Thea Hale had her tapping out. The referee didn't see it, so she lets go of the submission hold just to get an ass to the face with a hypnotic. Lash Legend. Yeah, Hypnotic is the name that she goes with. Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Because technically it's not supposed to be that she's hitting her with her ass, even though it's she's hitting her with her ass. So Miss Parker wins that. Lash Legend beats Kalani Jordan, who I guess is just a fucking babyface again. They just spent months with her bouncing around with that. They really are just, whatever. Again, they're just doing whatever when it comes to also Tony D'Angelo and Luca Crucifino. Because Tony D'Angelo calls him out and he goes, hey, the whole thing that makes no sense. Yeah, that makes no sense. And Luca's like, I know.
They are dragging their fucking ass.
It's terrible.
And it's either get to the point where Luca is on his side, and it certainly seemed that way. He beat up Stax' goons. Or get over it. And also, is Rizzo healthy? Is she fired? What are you doing? Because she's been in hiding for 3 months.
She's in hiding in a location that everybody knows where she is.
And like, I think she's still on the roster page. And
Yeah.
I like Rizzo. I'm not saying, that she should go. I'm saying pick a side, because if she's gonna be a part of the story moving forward, just get to the point already. This story makes no sense. Why are there mobsters in a developmental wrestling company, and why are you spending so much time on the split here?
Especially because it doesn't even seem like it's to drag it out for a certain thing. At least right now, it doesn't seem like it. Like it would be like, okay, well, at Great American Bash, we need to have some kind of big blow off or something. And we don't have, this is another whole thing too. If you say we need to do the blow off at Great American Bash, and we need to do this match that they had done beforehand at Battleground, and you've got time in between there, your job as a writer is to write, is to tell that story. I work every day even if I take 10 minutes to do something, I do something creative with my blueprints and stuff. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, check out this stuff when it comes to the Blueprint Project. I've mentioned this before with my Batman stuff. I've been working a lot on the Power Rangers stuff. And even right now on my screen, if I were to screen share right now, you would see behind the hot tags and my rundown of NXT, you would see volume 6 Out of the Darkness from the Power Rangers thing, where I've been working on a whole thing and whatever. But as a writer, your job is to go, how do I get from point A to point B to point C and all that from the beginning to the end, and tell the story. You do not tell the story of, say, how does Bruce Wayne become Batman, and go, well, he says, I'm going to be Batman. And then you go, and then he already is. And then in the meantime, you just go, he just keeps repeating, I'll get to there, I'll get to there, I'll get to there. If you do not have a story to tell between Tony D'Angelo and Luca Crucifino and Channing Stacks Lorenzo that you can't get 5 minutes per week to tell with the simple dumb shit that pro wrestling is, you're not a good writer. It's that simple. You can figure something out. We don't know how this is going to end, but it either ends in one of two ways. Luca's been working with Stacks, and Tony D is the biggest fucking idiot for perpetually going, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't trust you, but I'm going to trust you. I don't know. I don't trust you. Or Luca is working with Tony D, and he is being the biggest dumbass in the world by being like, I think the best way that I can help out my Don with this fucking mutiny that's happening is to stare at him and say nothing and perpetually do things that make no sense to make me look bad. It is the worst type of storytelling that you can imagine. And it's quickly becoming one of my options for worst story of the year, because this is just beyond dumb. And out of nowhere, the transition that they go from here with this is, oh, well, why did you leave? What happened in the desert? Well, he just left me. Okay. And Stacks comes out and goes, yeah, the reason why I left you is because you're never going to be good enough to be Tony D's consigliere. He already was. And why would you leave him out in the desert for that? It doesn't make sense. But hey, remember Noam Dar has the Heritage Cup? He hasn't been on the TV for the past couple of weeks. Let's remind you, because Stacks is going to fight him for that next week. Why? And they gave the justification of, well, because he beat a former Heritage Cup champion when he beat Tony D, and because, quote, his consigliere signed off on it, which makes Tony D think that it's Luca Crucifino, which, again, stupid. Either he did or he didn't. Ava is right there. Ava could just be like, yeah, he did.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other issue. It's like,
she knows who it was that signed off on it.
Ava, solve the problems on
right.
your brand. What the fuck are you doing? Yeah.
And if the big thing is that Stacks wins the Heritage Cup and you want to have Stacks against Tony D for the Heritage Cup at Great American Bash, why did you take so fucking long to come around to this?
It's maddening in some ways.
Oh, in a lot of ways. I hate this story so much. And there's so much that they could do with it too, because it's silly and it's like, mobster stuff. You can do the mutiny thing. You could do the whole like Rizzo is actually in on it more than Luca. And Luca just seems like he's the one that's like that. But you can't tell that story if Rizzo's not there. And I fully expect Stax wins that Heritage Cup next week. And it's probably Stax against Tony D at Great American Bash for the Heritage Cup. And it becomes the whole, who do you have on your side? Well, I've got Luca on my side, and I've got Rizzo on my side, and then Rizzo turns on Tony D.
Yeah, it's just a frustratingly bad story that they're telling. And I would actually say that across the board for NXT right now. What was one of my favorite shows and my favorite brands, even in this era, like Obafemi is just kind of twiddling his thumbs as the NXT champion. They're finally putting a lot of emphasis on this TNA relationship, but it's sort of like let TNA kind of do that and let Trick be good by working TNA shows. And then you do the stupid thing of Yoshiki Inamura pins TNA champion Trick Williams.
So
Josh Briggs goes, "Fuck yeah, bro. You're going to be the TNA #1 contender." And Inamura goes, "No, you are, friend, because I want to be the NXT champion." And they just signed off on that. We're like, "Yep, it's Josh Briggs." What?
Now, you can make the argument Briggs gets the title shot because Inamura gives it to him, because Inamura was given the title shot and he just gives it up. Okay, that sounds stupid, but you can argue that. How in any way does that give him a #1 contender shot against Obafemi? He's just like, no, I'd rather go for that other belt. And Ava could be like, nah.
And the weird thing is, it's they're pissing in TNA's mouth again, because I could be TNA champion, or I could be the NXT champion, and you can take the schlub title. Go ahead, friend. Like,
yeah,
what are we?
I want to think bigger than the TNA thing. I want to think NXT, because that's bigger. Other stories that they have going on for this whole thing too. Tavion Heights can't fucking speak up to Charlie Dempsey on his own because he's a little pussy. And it needs Javon Evans to be like, hey, my friend Tavion wants to leave your group. And Charlie Dempsey's like, well, if that's the case, then you two fight. Meanwhile, Jasper Troy's walking around, and Javon, you could say like, okay, he's a good member of the roster. He's trying to lift everybody up. And he's just like, hey, Jasper, you had a good match last week against Obafemi. You keep that up, man, you're going to win a title. And Jasper Troy's like, man, fuck off. It's like, okay, I like that so much better.
You're going to title one day, friend, but not before me.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Like,
yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't you be like, dude, fuck off? I don't like you. Why are you saying good job, but I'm better than you? I'm going to beat your ass. So I'm assuming that Jasper Troy interferes next week and Javon Evans gets involved in that kind of thing and whatever. But man, the storytelling for all of NXT lately is just shit. Ricky Saints goes up to Ethan Page and Vanity Project backstage and is like, I can't really talk right now, but I'm gonna fuck you up next week because in the span of a couple days, I'm gonna be medically cleared. And Ashanti's like, yeah, fuck you. And everybody leaves, and it's like, what are you doing, Ashanti?
Oh, and that's another thing. They're like, Ricky Saints will be cleared next week. Ashanti challenges him. They don't announce that Ricky Saints is actually cleared for the match. They don't book it.
Yeah. That's one of their, we put that out there, but we don't know when to announce it. And then next week, we're going to be like, oh, remember that we said that last week? And that's why I write down on my things. I'm like, yeah, match is happening next week, even though they didn't fucking say it for some reason. I don't know why not. What's the benefit of not saying it? Casey Navarro's injured, so he was replaced in that match with Wesley. And then in that match, Elijah gets injured.
Yes, and we'll get to that in 2 seconds. I have a couple things to say about Casey Navarro getting injured and the segment that happened. First thing is, and I tweeted this out or put this on Blue Sky, I think, the scene with First Class and Trick and High Rise, because Wesley takes Navarro's place, made me really miss old school Survivor Series teams where it's just a bunch of heels like, yeah, it's the Simpsons thing. Gentlemen, too evil. Like, I really enjoyed that. I was like, I like all these guys together because it's just, they just instantly had chemistry. I was upset about that because if you wanted to do this right, here's what you would have done. Hey, and I understand Wesley's a better wrestler, but hey, he can't wrestle. You know who can? My boy Ashante, who I was in a stable with when I was in this company. And he's on the roster. He's just going to take Casey's place.
That makes sense.
Should have been what they did. But yeah, Elijah is injured. Is injured. Unfortunately, he tore his tricep during the match. And there's no word on how long he'll be gone, but Fightful Selected report that he is injured. So best wishes to Elijah, Ezekiel, Elrod, Elias, and hopefully he comes back and has another fun run.
Who wants to walk with Elijah's? That's how you get around it. Kel Dixon is a fucking idiot. That's the big thing with Chase U. They quite literally have a segment backstage where it's like, all right, we're all in class, and he's just like, I don't know how book works. Like, and that's not a quote, but he damn near had his fucking notebook upside down and was trying to write with his eraser. And it's just like, Andre Chase is like, hey, no child left behind. And Kel Dixon's like, well, I'm too fucking dumb for this. I shouldn't have signed up for AP class. I'm really more general. I'm in the... I'll put this out there. I don't know if I should put it out there or not, but there used to be a term. There used to be a term that we had for the BOP class.
Stop! I just like...
So it's a BOP class. I'll explain it another time. But Uriah Connors is like mad at Andre Chase because Andre Chase is like, hey, you got to adapt to Chase U. Chase U's not going to adapt to you. And Uriah's like, man, you used to be cool. This is so fucking stupid.
And why is this happening? Like, what are
Kel Dixon and Uriah Connors specifically nag the fuck out of Andre Chase to be like, can you start up school again? And then they're like, oh man, I don't know how to do school.
And again, I have to say this as a personal, because I'm not watching Raw anymore. I don't have to do that, and I've stopped completely. Third week, I'm not watching Raw. I know, I like Callum. I know what I'm watching because of clips
and stuff. Yeah,
I do have to watch NXT, and it's maddening to be like, none of this makes sense. What happened? What is all of this? Fucking maddening.
Tatum Paxley also so desperately wants to be friends with Silruka and Zarya that she decides to come out and completely screw up Zarya's match, so she loses to Izzy Dame. Jordan Grace.
Culling is trying to manipulate her. By the way, I blame Zeuxis for this because you offered this woman to be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just include her?
Yeah. Just ghosted her afterward, and then you get mad at her.
Why does NXT play like a Nickelodeon show?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck is going on?
We need that old school 90s, like, the footage of like Jacob Fatu overhearing the Soul Sikoa was making fun of him and stuff. Like, we need that kind of kind of transition music and all. But Jordan Grace beats Lola Vice as well. And it's Jordan Grace, Izzy Dame, Jada Parker, and Lash Legend. Those are all the ones that are fighting for the opportunity to face JC Jane, aka there is one babyface and 3 heels. I wonder which one is going to win. Jordan Grace will end up beating JC Jane for the title at Evolution.
It really sucks that they wouldn't just let Jordan Grace beat Stephanie Vicaire as if like she wasn't at the level of Stephanie Vicaire.
Yeah.
And I will say on paper, JC being the transitional champion to get to a match between former TNA World Champion and former AEW World Champion Mariah May, I see where that would be a fun way to go. But at the same time, I fear that they've kind of sucked some of the aura out of Grace,
Yeah.
And
She got a new theme, by the way. They took out the sirens and stuff.
Apparently, people were chanting "Fire Deaf Rebel" after the theme played. God bless. Actually, she then tweeted, "Hey, shut up and just vibe with it. We're just trying to just roll with this." Okay, sure. Yeah, I don't know. This it's fine, but she should have won the title from Fakir.
And then JC Jane's already feuding with Blake Monroe now.
Oh, and okay, Blake Monroe. I'm gonna take some time to get used to that. Not call her Mariah May, but is her whole shtick just like I'm doing Sabrina Carpenter and Timeless Tony Storm? Is that just like what is she doing?
It seems like it. Yeah, just taking those two and doing a lesser version of that, the PG version, as Callum had said.
Yeah, as I say, I saw the clip of the her contract signing going around, and the line that she throws out about, "Oh, I can't wait to get into bed with some of these girls." It's like, yeah, that's like what Toni Storm says, except she says it with personality and character. I think it was just like, it feels. I know how good Mariah May can be, Blake Monroe. I'm still going to call her Mariah May for the time being, but it is, and I thought that she would work quite well in the WWE system, and she might end up doing. And again, it's still very early days. Don't want to judge her too soon, but it does feel like they hired her and said, "Okay, can you just do Toni Storm? Because we really actually would rather have Toni Storm, but we can't get Toni Storm because she doesn't want to come back because we treated her really badly when first time around, and she seems to be really locked in with AEW. So can you just come in and just do what she does, rather than do your own character?" Because at the end of the day, she did do stuff a lot. Obviously, her entire run in AEW was closely tied to Toni Storm, but she didn't just do Toni Storm's character. She had her own character, her own cadences. She was more vicious, especially with the heel. But I guess they're going with the babyface side of things. So they've made her, she has to be more funny. She has to be more goofy. She has to be more camp in order to get a babyface gimmick across. And yeah, they're going to try and make her Toni Storm, and they're going to try and make her a bit of Sabrina Carpenter, because Sabrina Carpenter is, a flavour of the month type celebrity. I'd say flavour of the month, that seems like harsh to her, because she seems like she actually works hard and does good stuff, so it's a case of... But, they're going to try and mimic her because she is a popular celebrity right now, known for her, beauty and wit. So they basically say, yeah, just do that, and just lace in a bit of the stuff that Toni Storm was doing, and then we're good.
Don't go too far, though. Don't be talking about carpet munching and whatever, but, can you just... Because Toni Storm's like, I'm just gonna be like, my waist need your fucking tongue in there, and the way that you would, actually have fun with the gimmick.
Yeah, that's how it works, though. That's what makes it actually good and funny. You have to push the boundaries, not basically say, just the words like I'm going to fuck you in the ring, but imitate to it, and that's funny. That's like, oh yeah, we're going to turn the Austin Powers up to 11 type shit. That sort of.
Wow. I love Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Since I am not a big pop culture person, especially on this side of things, but I'm aware of it when it comes to Caroline fills me in on some of these things every once in a while. Like, I never would have known who JoJo Siwa is without my wife, but I know full well how ridiculous JoJo Siwa is at this point. And for it to be like, I need to shed my little good girl skin, and I'm gonna be like, I was a bad girl. I did some bad things, and I'm like, no,
verbatim.
I think that this girl thinks that she's coming across as like, oh, she's a real fucking rebel, and she sounds like she's like, yeah, you might not know this about me, but I'm a real fucking rebel. I ate 2 cookies when I was told to only eat one of them. That's what Mariah May's doing in WWE now. It's like, I'm really risque. I could maybe wink at you. Yeah.
I'm going to take a towel off, and then it actually reveals that I'm wearing a dress, but it's a dress that's not even that revealing in the first place.
Right.
Now, in fairness, and I'm actually going back to JoJo Siwa real quick here. That poor girl was in the spotlight since she was like, what, 5, 6?
Oh yeah, she was part of that stupid Dance Moms competition.
Dance Moms, yeah. So to go from that to being like the default tween idol to, yeah, sure, I was a bad girl, I did some bad things, not great, but she's figuring out in front of the whole world, so I wouldn't want to have to be her in that position.
She's someone that's grown up in the limelight and has just become conditioned to try and seek it out and maintain it as much as possible, which is obviously, it's a unfortunate thing of being a child and teen star.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, do not pattern yourself after Miley Cyrus.
I mean, talk about this Blake Monroe is like mimicking like Toni Storm in terms of like the stuff that she says, the stuff that Sabrina Carpenter says as well. Like, talk about like this risque stuff. Like, her like nonsense outro stuff is some of the most like risque and blue stuff, where she will literally just intimate like sucking guys off and stuff along those lines. It's like, oh yeah, like those are really good characters for like this this I guess young adult audience. Yeah, these young adult, they're good gimmicks, and they're good gimmicks because they're risque. If you tone down the risque nature of it, it just comes off lame.
There's a big difference between, like you said, like I can't wait to get in the ring with these women, wink wink nudge nudge, and then Sabrina Carpenter being like, you guys know what an Eiffel Tower is? It's like, explain that to your parents, like.
And also, like, okay, with Sabrina, she's literally turning the clock back a little bit and, kind of reclaiming some of that, like, 2000s, risque pop princess stuff, which is great. It's working for her because it's kind of a throwback and it's something people are asking for. With Toni Storm, she's doing it in this like 50s way, and also kind of throwing in some genuine queer aspects to it. With Blake Monroe doing it after she feuded with Storm, it's like, it'd be like if Sabrina's co-star from Girl Meets World from Disney Channel just decided, okay guys, I'm gonna do exactly what Sabrina's doing. I'm back and I'm gonna do her thing, but to a lesser extent. It sucks because she was so close to Storm, and it comes off as a ripoff.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. But I'd also say, just in her defense, because I don't want to, and like, she was doing a lot of Mariah May was doing a lot of queer stuff in Stardom before she came part of the Toni Storm thing as well. Like, you probably couldn't go like one match without her being attached to the lips of some other Japanese wrestler at some point or another. So it's like, it's not too far removed from her her previous character that she would be talking about some sort of on the border of the carpet munching thing. But it's like,
what part of the body's that on the border of the
like the edge of the edge of the rug, essentially, not like like she's skirting the floorboards in that regard. But
Jenna Parker's like, hey, I've got Hypnotic.
Oh, and there will be a time where Blake Monroe's face is just buried in Jenna Parker's ass.
And that'll get a lot of clips on YouTube and
yeah. But like, Mariah would have been doing that. The fact that she has been attached to Toni Storm does kind of mean that it will be seen as a bit of a rip-off.
Yeah, to a more mainstream audience, it comes across as a rip-off.
Yeah. The thing that I did actually wasn't really the wording itself was the thing that attached to Toni Storm. It was the way she said it was the thing that made me feel like it was Toni Storm, because it was very much like, I really want to get into bed with those girls, in almost like this weird like 50s accent as well. And it's like, okay, don't make it that on the nose that you're doing it. Just speak the way that you normally speak and say that sort of thing. So, but I guess because they're trying to make her a baby face, they have to make her, as I say, slightly more goofy.
Well, because that was before I got a text about maybe it was a Nicole Smith reference, and then I got wise to the idea that it's all just Sabrina Carpenter. And my deal was like, oh, are you just doing 60s TV? Because that's the vibe I got. And I'm like, that's strange. And I don't know. I don't want to make it seem like I'm saying like she's just a ripoff, because she is her own person. But the perception isn't super healthy for her right now.
By the way, Marilyn Monroe, overrated. People need to get over that.
It's been like 80 years. I don't think people are getting over it.
They need to.
They won't. Like,
anytime I come across somebody that's like, I idolize her, I'm like, man, my opinion just went so far down on you.
the only time I ever think anything about Marilyn Monroe is when I'm saying happy birthday to somebody, because that is iconic, and I will admit that. But other than that,
I don't know. Wow, this speaks to me. But I think if somebody starts thinking that and they're like, oh, you remember the be risque about that, I think Mr. Burns first.
happy birthday,
Mr. Smithers.
Got a few Simpsons reference in this.
Simpsons is, the first 10 seasons of Simpsons has just poisoned an entire generation. We can't think of anything without being like, oh, you mentioned a frittata? I'm going to laugh and be like, Lou and his frittatas. He likes eggs. Let's see. That's NXT. Grand Slam Mexico on Dynamite. Let's talk about that. So that was a quote unquote sellout. That wasn't a sellout. And this is a response in like theory, not something that they actually did. Like they didn't go like, oh, the AAA and the WWE thing or whatever. But it's like, hey, look, they just had that Worlds Collide thing. Now we're getting AEW with CMLL. Better in ring show than Worlds Collide was. And one of those things where it's like, if you want to watch pro wrestling and just people doing pro wrestling stuff, watch this show because the matches were good. If that's boring to you and you need more stories, don't watch this show because the story elements of it, this isn't pushing stuff forward very specifically for a lot of those things. This was like a lot of like, this is a side kind of quest, but I thought it was a good show. And I don't really have anything to say about the matches because matches were just, they do the matches and whatever. Mercedes Moné beats Zeuxis. How do you pronounce it again? Zeuxis. Yeah. I just remember that when she was in the Mae Young Classic or whatever, I didn't like her match and I just said she sucks. That was but that Mercedes wins another championship, so it's even more of the idea that she's gonna hold all the belts. And that was like the main takeaway that I had going for this, other than matches were good.
I love all the like references, like the idea of like Mercedes Moné is has got creative control and is just booking herself, saying that she has to win all these titles. It's like she's won titles now with what 4 or 5 different promotions. Yeah. It's like she's got creative control of all of them, including this one, which she is not signed to the company for.
Oh, 100%. She's exactly going in there with the pen and paper and being like, yeah. I think I should only win by DQ on this one. Or sure. Like,
my favorite one is somebody tweeted Sean, well, Tony's paying these companies to put the belt on her. She's a fucking former WrestleMania main eventer. You're going to tell me if she comes to your rinky-dink indie or your top-level promotion that you're not going to put the former WrestleMania main eventer over? Like, stop it.
Yeah, they're putting belts on her because it's like, well, then we're going to get her for at least one other show.
It's more of a case like, yeah, you can like or hate what she's doing or anything along those lines, but it's more of a case of like it's totally understandable that she's winning all these titles because it's just who she is. It's like that she is a top level star and a top level wrestler, so you are going to put titles on them. But in terms of the match, the show itself, I had a lot of fun with it because I think the crowd was great. As I say, it's not a sellout, but it's like they seemed like a crowd of people that were obviously familiar with CMLL, have probably gone to Arena Mexico loads of times before, but were fans of AEW. They kind of knew all these people.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like it was a thing that they were unfamiliar with and they were just along for the ride. It looked like they cared about what was being said. And I'd say that there were 2 great things on this show, I thought. There were a lot of really good matches and stuff, but 2 great things. First one was the opening promo by Hangman Page.
Yep.
Which was phenomenal. I thought him speaking in Spanish to the entire crowd, the things that he was saying. I saw the translation afterwards about him talking about how he used to work on his farm with a group of Mexican guys, and they talked to him about how we're stronger when we work together, and basically preaching unity and all stuff like thanking them for welcoming him into their house. He made some sort of comment about John Moxley's mother, and then
Yeah.
and then yeah, it was just a great promo, like just told like in really good Spanish, and I thought it really set the tone for the evening.
It was a good choice for that to go on first too, because let's face it, later on you had MJF coming out on the American flag and all like that, and I don't blame people for booing the fuck out of that, and that's kind of the whole point for the heat and all. But you start off being like, we respect the people that we're in the environment for right now.
Yeah, and that brings me neatly onto the second great thing of this show, which was Mystico versus MJF. Like everything from Mystico's entrance with the crowd singing along, and they brought the rights to the song, to like the heat that MJF was getting as the American. Like he played this is the best I've seen MJF since he came back from his injury. I thought he was just totally in his element, doing the heel stuff. Great tombstone on the like stage, and then rolling back in the ring and trying to get a count out, like tapping out to La Mystica, but having MVP distract the referee so he could get out of it, trying to win with a low blow, but Mystico gets out of it, then blatantly low blowing him and ripping his mask off. Just thought it was such tremendous heat, and it just makes you think, yeah, they've got to do the rematch at All In. They've got to do MJF Mystico again, because it's in Texas. There's a good contingent of Latin fans there. I'm sure they'll get on board with the Mystico stuff as well. I'm not saying Mystico necessarily has to win the match, but I think you should like do a redo. I think it should be mask versus hair, and have MJF lose his hair, because that'd just be funny. But it's how willing MJF is willing to do that. I don't know if that affects like movie roles or anything like that. But then again, it's like he's not going to lose his hair forever. He's just going to have a bald head or shaved head for a little while.
I think maybe they should have done that with MJF before he left. But
yeah. But that was great. That was a great match. I thought that was the best match on the show.
I agree. I think that match was phenomenal. I think the reports about MJF actually being confronted by a fan at the hotel after the show.
Oh, that happened?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I didn't see that.
He got real heat. You get real heat for this stuff.
Yeah, like the crowd fucking cares.
They hated the idea of Mystico losing his mask, because that's like, obviously any luchador losing his mask is like a big deal. But yeah, but especially Mystico's the top star in CMLL, having his mask ripped off. That's like, okay, this is a huge deal. I loved also the touch of Mystico. He came out in a Sin Cara mask.
Yeah, which I thought that was great.
It's not like the mask that I mean, I know he had like the AEW thing on there, but like that's not his normal thing anymore.
No, he doesn't. No, he never wears the Sin Cara mask or.
Yeah, that was literally a mask just for WWE.
Yeah.
See, I thought that he had the same basic pattern.
No, they changed him completely up.
Yeah, the Sin Cara mask didn't have like his masks in CMLL and wherever else he's done it, they have eye holes, whereas the Sin Cara mask didn't have eye holes.
And then they turn the lights down, and then they're like, "Why isn't this guy able to wrestle?"
Right.
No, but I think actually to draw a contrast to Worlds Collide, this was more lively because you went to the actual crowd in Mexico. I think Worlds Collide would have been even better in front of that audience. And I'm sure like when they do the Super Show in Mexico, it'll be great because that crowd is so passionate. And, you know, again, the MJF stuff was phenomenal. Adam Cole felt like a star for 5 minutes because that crowd was into his entrance. And, you know, I love that because the decline of Adam Cole is something that will never sit right with me. I think we have to shout out Brody King for being the fucking man.
Yeah,
oh yeah, that was great.
Fucking loved that shirt.
And you know, I thought the show was really good. This felt like a mini pay-per-view that I thought either Summer Blockbuster or the other one I'm forgetting the name of,
Fighter Fest
was actually going to be, because this was straight match after match. There was no backstage, like, oh, it's a TV show or backstage. It was just matches, and the crowd was hot, and everything felt really strong.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily was a big show in terms of building towards All In. I think it kind of just mainly progressed the you had Hangman and Moxley get involved with each other for a bit, and you had a bit more for like Swerve and Ospreay and the Bucks, and a bit for Mercedes and Tony as well. But it wasn't really about that. It was about just showing like this great collaboration between AEW and CMLL. I think in that regard, it was absolutely successful. just means that the overall build to All In just took a bit of a backseat for this one show. But I think that's it. I think it's fine for a show like this. But and also just one final thing about the Hangman promo, like just comparing that and his talk about unity and like him like thanking them for CMLL allowing AEW to come into their house and be with them and to entertain them tonight. Compare that to Rey Mysterio's promo about WWE giving the validation to Lucha Libre finally. It's just a complete polar opposite. It makes me, honestly, like, and it's about it's like it makes me really dislike Rey Mysterio.
I think
that promo.
I think the reaction to that promo has been a little strong. Not just from you, obviously, but like the immediate reaction to that was very intense. But I will agree. I think, saying that is ridiculous.
I don't think it's like a bit nutty ridiculous thing to say, and I think it's like it rankles me the wrong way with the fact that it's Rey Mysterio saying it, because like if he's told to say that by WWE, because it's not something that I don't think he'd come up with on his own. If he is, then it's a bit even weirder. But if it's something that he's been asked to say, then he could just go no. And what are they going to do? They're going to fire Rey Mysterio and just let him go to AEW. But just let them go to AEW before they're doing a big show in Mexico as well. Like, oh, that'd be a great opportunity there. But like, yeah, if it's like Angel Garza or someone like that who's told to say it, then yeah, I kind of get it, because like you just got to play the game and just do what you're told. But Mysterio can just look to him and say, either I'm not going to say that, or can we change it to say something that's slightly less inflammatory than this? But
just talk about my son, Dom.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be fine. I'd rather than that. Just go on a tangent about how his son's Dominic Mysterio and just lend it there. It's fine. But yeah, just the contrast between the two, I thought was pretty stark.
Pretty stark. One of the relatives of Zoe and Ricky.
No,
and Tony. Oh, we're talking about AAA. Let's talk about Triplemania from was this like last week? We didn't get a chance.
Triplemania Regia, yeah, from
the 15th, so 5 days ago, and it wasn't like fully last week or whatever. Now, I didn't watch any of it. Did you guys see any of it?
I saw the like I said, I think I saw like the back hour maybe. Like by the time I found out it was on and it was on Max in Mexico, it was almost time for the tag team title match, and I gotta say I thought it was one of the best looking Triplemanias I've ever seen. The production values were definitely way up. I saw the Garzas win the tag team titles, which I thought was not surprising, but also kind of cool. They did that in a match with the Nemeth brothers and two of their other tag teams. And I got a chuckle because, Jesus, Dolph, you can't beat the WWE mid-carders even now. Like, come on, Ziggler. But it was cool to see Angel and Berto excited and energetic, and the crowd was loving them, and that was fun to see. Kind of like how I said at Worlds Collide, it was fun when people were, given a spotlight that they're not normally given. I also saw Moose defend his X Division title against Joe Hendry and two other individuals whose names escape me at the moment.
El Macias and El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr.
And Wagner was one of the better parts of Worlds Collide as well. Macias, I guess, is in a faction with JBL and Del Rio, which is
they're part of I think it's El Ojo, their name. So I think it means just like the I is their group name.
Tis a shame, but we'll talk about Del Rio in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
I love Joe Hendry's entrance. He got that the viral guy on TikTok who does the kind of stylized themes. Mm-hmm. They got his version of the Joe Hendry theme. I thought that was super cool. The place was super into Joe Hendry. He got to do some content on social media with Mr. Iguana, and then they announced WWE will be doing some super shows in Mexico. No Cena announcements. I guess he's just not doing a farewell spot in Mexico. And I thought the show was fine for what it was, but we're going to talk about this main event now, which was Vikingo and Alberto El Patron, or El Patron Alberto. And I've never seen so much interference in a steel cage match in my life.
No, that was the funny thing. So yeah, so steel cage match for the AAA Mega Championship rematch from a couple of weeks back when Vikingo won the title in order to defend it against Chad Gable at the Worlds Collide show. So in this match, we had interference on Patron's side from Macias, JBL, and his father his brother, El Hijo de dos Caros, and then on the babyface side, Vikingo was helped by Octocon Jr., Laredo Kid, Nino Hamburguesa, and then Latin Lover. And so this is the interesting thing about this show. Really, the major talking point from this show is when they were doing like the pre-match, like you know how WWE does things where like they show the clips of people coming to the arena.
Yeah,
and like with their suitcases or whatever. So they showed Vikingo coming in, and he was booed pretty loudly, even though he's supposed to be a babyface in the match with Patron. And in this match in general, the crowd was mostly behind Patron and against Vikingo, even though Patron has been presented as heel as part of this heel faction with JBL. And JBL just like, even earlier in the night, cut a promo just berating the Mexican crowd, but they still cheered Patron in this match. And were pretty unhappy when Vikingo retained the championship. But I would say that the reason why that is not necessarily a slight on Vikingo than just turning on Vikingo. I think it's more due to the fact that for the last few months, or even longer than that, the match they've been building to, the big match they've been building to, is Patron versus Latin Lover. Like that is the match that they've been staving off and waiting to pull the trigger on. And so they wanted Patron to be the champion because they wanted that to be the title match. And they've just thrown Vikingo, who only recently came back from injury, like half a year ago or so, and just given him the title because he's a more palatable face for WWE. And so it's more like a generalized rejection of WWE's interference into AAA booking that I think that they're rejecting, as opposed to, just rejecting Vikingo as a wrestler. I don't think that's the problem at all. I don't think it's the case like they would even be cheering Patron if he was the champion. They'd still be presenting him as a heel, but it's a case of that's the match they wanted, and that's the match that was naturally going to happen, is that they'd have the title match, Latin Love would win the title, and that would be what the story was meant to be told. And now they've just thrown a wrench into the works because they don't want Patron to be champion because they don't want him to be in WWE as champion. So yeah, I think this is the first indication of a rejection of WWE's involvement in AAA activities. Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. Boo WWE getting involved, boo. But fuck Del Rio, so like I'm kind of.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that as a statement from our side of things, anyway. But it is more just a case of it's not who Patron is; it's what he represents in this.
I understand that, but at the same time, if you can't understand that you shouldn't even want this dude in your promotion, you should be cheering at this dude is like, okay, we're not gonna have this guy on our TV. You should be cheering. Like I said, I get it. You don't want WWE just fucking over months and years of booking, but it's the Del Rio. And I know, like, look, sometimes on the podcast we have fun joking around about it, but it is genuinely frustrating that Del Rio is still somewhere where he can get chances. So I'm with WWE on this one. I'm sorry. They do a lot of bad stuff. Too much bad stuff for me 90% of the time, but I'll take this win.
Yeah, you're never going to hear me back Del Rio for anything positive, at least. If it comes to the story of like, well, can we put him on there so he can finally shit himself in the ring, like we've talked about for years, then like, okay, maybe put him on the show for that reason and then fucking boot him out afterward. But no patience for bad people anymore. But that's cool for Los Garza winning those tag titles. I hope that they hold them on TV tonight, because again, there is literally no reason not to. It benefits AAA, and it's like, it would make them look better if they do, but in typical WWE fashion, I'm not anticipating that that's going to happen. Because why? Why would you do the thing that makes perfect sense and is mutually beneficial for every single person? Let's since we're talking about AAA, and let's switch over to some New Japan stuff. So Dominion happened, and they also announced the participants in the G1 Climax tournament that's going to be coming around. So again, I kind of pass this off to you guys because I did not watch Dominion, and I can chime in a little bit about G1, but a good half of the people are people I'm not super duper familiar with. So
I'm gonna leave the Dominion talk to mostly Callum because I've only seen clips, but I will be talking about the G1.
Okay, so Dominion side of things, I've mainly seen clips of things. I've seen like a couple of the matches, but nothing major. But I won't go through like every result because it doesn't really matter. Well, I'll just say something passing, like House of Torture beat Bullet Club War Dogs. You had the Mighty Don't Kneel of Satsuba Jr. and Rohei Iwa beat Phantasmo and Shota Umino. You had Tanahashi beat Yu Uemura. And you had Sho and Dookie won the tag titles off of Yo and Master Wato. So the thing about that is that Dookie was previously part of Just Four Guys, so he's now turned and he's joined up with House of Torture, which is basically the theme of the show, is who's joining House of Torture next? Because they had...
Jesus.
I know. It's like that. He joined House of Torture, you had Bad Luck Fale joined House of Torture, and they had Chase Owens turn on Bullet Club War Dogs in the opening match to join House of Torture. So 3 people joined House of Torture by the end of the show. So that's obviously it's great because they're the greatest faction of all time. In parentheses, probably actually worse than Retribution. So it's great. It's great that they're getting more members and more screen time on TV. So you had Ishii and Taichi won the tag titles from United Empire, which I was a bit surprised about, considering the fact they're not in the same faction. But then again, Just Four Guys just became Just Three Guys. And now one of them is teaming with a guy from another faction. One of them is Taka Michinoku, who doesn't really wrestle that much anymore anyway. So you're only left with Yu Uemura, so you might as well just disband the faction and just have them join different groups now. And Boltin Oleg defeated Konosuke Takeshita in probably one of the better matches of the entire show. So he's the Never Openweight champion. You had Evil defeated David Finlay in a dog collar death match, which was truly bad. Gabe Kidd defeated Yosuji for the Global Heavyweight Championship in a match which was extremely underwhelming.
I saw him miss a senton, and it makes me laugh.
By a clear foot. Like, he just leaped straight over that guy and had to act like, the back of my head just about grazed him.
So,
and then
I still think we're getting Kid versus Joe, and probably for the New Japan Global Championship. I think that's the Forbidden Door match.
And then in the main event, which was probably the best match of the show, Hiraki Goto defeated Shingo Takagi. It still went way too long. They shouldn't be at this point in time in New Japan because they don't have Okada, Omega, Naito, White, Ospreay, anybody like that anymore. They probably shouldn't be doing 30-minute long main events, but they're still proceeding. Like, they've still got a house style they have to uphold. But still, Goto versus Takagi was still a very good match, and Goto retains, as I expected he would do. So, yeah, Dominion has largely been panned for the constant overexposure of the House of Torture, and primarily for the Evil David Finlay and Gabe Kidd Yosuji matches just being pretty underwhelming. Like, it was kind of, the show had to be kind of rescued by the Oleg and Takeshita and Goto Takagi matches. So
I'm excited for Oleg. I think that's a good move for him. I also think that there's a good chance Takeshita might be the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion one day here soon.
Well, that probably moves us nicely on to G1 Climax 35. So they've announced it's going to be a 2-block tournament again. So no separating out into 4 different blocks of different people. So it's just 2 blocks of 10 people each. They've announced 16 people so far. So currently in Block A, we've got Boltin Oleg, new Never Openweight champion. El Phantasmo, the TV champion. Then we have Evil, David Finlay, Sanada, Hiroshi Tanahashi in his final ever G1 in his final year, Yota Tsuji, and Yuya Uemura. So that's the first collective. And then in the B block, we have Hiroki Goto, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, Gabe Kidd, the Global Heavyweight Champion, Ren Narita, Great-O-Khan, Zack Sabre Jr., last year's winner, Shingo Takagi, Konosuke Takeshita, and Shota Umino. And then we have 2 play-in tournaments to determine the final 2 places in both the A and B block. For the A one, it's going to be Don Farley, or Bad Luck Farley, against Callum Newman in one of the matches, and then Ryohei Oiwa versus Taichi in the other match to determine who goes in. And then in the B block, we have Tomohiro Ishii against Drilla Mahoney, and then Chase Owens versus Yoshihashi as the other option. Actually, sorry, it was Callum Newman versus Taichi and Oiwa versus Don Farley. I got those 2 mixed up. But yeah, that's so that's the potential prospective lineups. Those matches are taking place on June 23rd and July 4th. So before the tournament itself kicks off on July 19th. So we've still got a little while before this takes place. We've got time to speculate about who'll do well, who'll do badly. As the initial thoughts of both blocks, I think A block's going to be pretty weak in general. I think it's interesting that Tanahashi has put himself back into one after he didn't do the last 2 G1s, but I guess it's his final year and he needs to add his star power to it. But I don't know how his knees are going to survive the run through. Makes me very, very hesitant about the fact that Bad Luck Farley is going to probably have to be in blockade to make sure that Tanahashi can have a pretty easy night one of the matches. But yeah, the overall card itself, though, is pretty underwhelming. Sanada's not great. Evil's not great. Uemura and Tsuji are fine, but they've just not they've not reached the peaks of their potential just yet. David Finlay can be good, can be bad. Phantasmo, same thing. Oleg is good. So I don't think there's going to be many. I don't think there's going to be many, if any, great matches out of the A block. B block looks a lot better. Goto will have good matches for everyone. Gabe Kidd can have really good matches for people. Zack and Shingo and Konosuke Takeshita will obviously have great matches with pretty much everybody. So I think that there's good chance for it to have a lot of good matches from B block, especially if they do put Tomohiro Ishii into it, which I doubt they will do. But yeah, and also Chase Owens is almost certainly going to be in there, which is going to be bad. So, but either way, B block definitely looks more enticing from a match quality perspective over block A. And if my initial predictions for the Wrestle Kingdom main event, at the moment, I think the 3 people that I have put on my front runner so far are Takeshita, Gabe Kidd, and Hiroshi Tanahashi are probably my 3 picks.
Those are also my 3 picks. I think it's not out of the question to just say Tanahashi's final match is the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, and it's for the championship. And, maybe he goes out losing and puts over whomever the champion is at that point. Maybe he wins. It's like a final thank you for everything, for carrying a generation. I think Takeshita has a very strong chance to be champion because he does great work in New Japan, and AEW can promote this, and it could be a big factor into Wrestle Dynasty as well, which I assume will be January 5th again. And Gabe Kidd, it would be the ultimate stamp after his phenomenal match with Kenny Omega from Kingdom this year.
Yeah. I'm slightly more hesitant on Gabe Kidd after he won the Global Championship at Dominion, so it makes it feel a bit odd that he would hold that and then win the G1. I imagine that they wouldn't want to have someone holding the secondary title going for the main title unless they were planning on unifying them again, which I don't think they're planning on doing just yet. Takeshita would be the best choice in terms of just having a great match in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, because he can put on a match of that quality. Shingo can as well, and Zack can as well, but Zack was in it last year and that didn't really work out that well, and Shingo's just had his match for the world title. And I think there's a very, very strong chance that Goto is still the champion going into Wrestle Kingdom, because it's going pretty well with him on top in terms of ticket sales and stuff that ilk.
Is there enough of a connection between Goto and Tanahashi to be like, okay, and then that also means that would be a match that people would be specifically looking forward to? Or is it just kind of, well, two top guys? That would make sense.
They've been around for a very long time, and so they're both kind of the same generation. So you could kind of build it around that. I mean, Goto's 45, Tanahashi's 48. They both pretty much were pushed towards the top at the same time, but Goto failed to go over the top in the same way that Tanahashi did. So you can build it around the idea that like Goto was almost always in Tanahashi's shadow. But I also think that part of the reason why they're not going to do that match is I think that a couple of months ago, if my memory serves me correctly, they did do Goto versus Tanahashi for the World Championship and had Goto beat him. Doesn't say that it's impossible for that to happen again, but I think that they'll probably just steer away from that and have Tanahashi not quite get over the line this time. Also, I just don't know if Tanahashi's body can withstand this sort of tournament anyway, so I think he'll end up taking it easy and losing quite often. But yeah, the outside chance is David Finlay, because they were seemingly positioning him quite highly in terms of like earlier this year. It did look like they were trying to build him back up as a babyface main event level guy to go up and potentially become the next like top gaijin of the company. But I don't know, the last couple of months haven't been that inspiring from him, so I don't know whether they'll pivot. But to be fair, Gato isn't known for pivoting. He's probably, in a way, he's probably known who he's going to win this tournament since the tournament last year. And even if people haven't been doing that well or have lost a bit of momentum, he's probably not going to change his mind. Whoever he ended up picking at that point is probably still going to win it either way. But yeah, I'd say it's pretty a pretty lackluster card in general, because like no outside of Takeshita, there's no outsiders. There's nobody from any other promotion participating. There's no like surprise returns or anything of that ilk. It's literally just guys from the company, most of whom have been in it quite a few times already or have become part of the furniture anyway. So it's a far from inspiring situation, which is pretty much what you can say for a lot of New Japan right now, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the G1 Climax 35, and we can reconvene and give a bit more of a preview in the days heading up to the show itself.
And the only other thing I've got down on our hot tags to talk about is just to quickly preview a little bit of SmackDown and talk about the idea that, yeah, I mean, we have SmackDown tonight as John Cena against R-Truth, and we've got King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring semifinals. We already talked about that a little bit. The idea about like, well, it seems like it might be Asuka over Alexa Bliss. Randy Orton and Sami Zayn, I don't know, could go either way. Depends on if they want to do, I think, Sammy versus Jay, or if they want to do Orton versus Cody Rhodes. But
hey, did Kevin Owens ever get neck surgery?
I don't know if he did or not. Was that?
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, Randy, Sammy. If maybe Owens wasn't as injured as he thought, I don't know. Like, is the twist here?
I can't picture him popping up and doing anything on that.
I do like the fact that it's going to be, you either get Randy Cody, Randy J, Sammy J. You know what I mean? Like, I like the four here. You know what I mean? Like, there's a good option no matter what you do. But I'm guessing it's going to be Sami Zayn.
And the other element of the whole SmackDown thing, though, July 4th is going to be a show that they record in advance. They're going to actually do that on the same night that they're going to do the Monday Night Raw, just like for the sake of, I guess, giving people off for the 4th of July. And that's going to be a 2-hour show. Now, I am a little bit suspecting that it might not necessarily be just exactly that. I think that they could be recording 2 hours worth of content and then filling an extra hour's worth of stuff in between there. Like, they could edit that and have backstage segments and other kind of bullshit where they end up just being like, okay, well, we did 2 hours worth of extra taping, but we don't need to have the rest of the stuff in front of the crowd. So I'm still a little bit skeptical. I'm still a little suspicious of that. Skeptical. And I was reading something else at the same time too. But if it ends up being 2 hours, fucking great. Because it seems like they are going to go back to 2 hours when the Rainmaker show debuts in August. And I cannot wait until SmackDown goes back to 2 hours. This has been brutal, and it has not gotten any better. Maybe it'll take a little bit of time. It shouldn't, because they've had Raw for 3 hours for a fucking decade. But they never have been figuring out how to get this SmackDown to work. It's exhausting. It's just unbearable to watch a lot of the time because it's clearly stretching a 2-hour show into 3. And I am so excited for it to go back to 2 hours. Should have happened a long time ago.
Television shows should not be 3 hours, period. Doesn't matter the company. I've had some friends be like, I would love for AEW Dynamite to be 3 hours. No, you do not. You think you do, but like, wrestling shows do not need to be that length every week. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so excited for them to go back to 2 hours.
Sometimes less is more.
Less is definitely more.
I'm like, I have no plans on watching this Rainmaker show, but thank you.
Not Okada.
Thank you for stepping in and helping on that front. And Zelina Vega is going to confront Julia tonight. I'm assuming that they're going to build something for Evolution, as I mentioned before. And Trish, I guess, is supposed to be appearing.
Yeah, I heard about that last week. So maybe she'll do something with Chelsea.
Maybe. I guess that's what, like, it's going to be doing something with, like, maybe Trish and, I don't know, 2 other people against Secret Service or something. But that's the only thing I can imagine, is that they're building up something to that. There's really no reason for her to be there, but hey, maybe she'll come out and she'll go, hey guys, you know how Evolution is a thing? How great Stephanie Vacquet.
Why are you crapping on the women so much today? Like, I'm
mostly crapping on Nikki Bella.
Yeah. Fair enough. But
yeah. I mean, when your segment sucks, I'm going to call it out. That's what I got down for the hot tags. As mentioned before, we got Night of Champions coming on next week. That's going to be a breakdown that we do with predictions and the post show and everything along those lines. We do have Evolution in the massive throw 100 pay-per-views into the same 3-day span coming up in July. So we're kind of debating about what we could do based off of Evolution. Some of the ideas we were talking about yesterday after we were recorded our other main event was to maybe watch the previous Evolution and do a finance table for that. Maybe we go back and redo the Mount Rushmore of women's pro wrestling because it's been a few years since then, and plenty of people have like worked their way up to the mix, and we've now gotten into a rhythm of doing Mount Rushmores where we do more than just like the list and that's it. So we could, the baby faces and the heels, the women's tag teams, like so on and so forth. We could do something like that. We could do a completely different idea if anybody else has anything in mind. It doesn't have to be based off of Evolution, and it could be just a random, hey, you know what? We really want you to do Superstar Scores for somebody or whatever it might be. I don't know. Leave your comments below. Tell us your thoughts on that, and also chime in about anything that we talked about on this episode for the hot tags. Go back and check out the Matchmaker and the mock draft things before that I had mentioned before. And also share your support on the Linktree things. You can find it at amagotree.com to follow where I am all over the place. If you want to follow what Rob and Callum are too, check out their stuff too.
Yep. Check me out over at Dude Felice. Check out Fightful.com. And check out Fightful Select, because sometimes you get stories like Elijah tearing his tricep, and sometimes you get stories based around some rumors regarding Mercedes Moné and Mariah May and AEW All In.
You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Weekmeister14. Check out the Power Rankings every Saturday on smarkandmoment.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's results. And while you're there, head on over to the Fantasy League, also at WWEFantasyLeague.com, see how our teams are doing, who is picking up points as we head towards Night of Champions, the next big show. And so you can just follow along and see all the action there.
Okay, everybody, you know the score. Stay tuned. Keep checking out smartcatmoment.com. Check out fanboysanonymous.com. Follow us on all of our different platforms we said before. And hit up that Discord. Chat it up when we're not doing anything like that. Next time around, though, we will have the Night of Champions predictions. Unless we end up doing a Darkcast in the meantime, which I might end up doing. I don't know. Kind of depends on the schedule. But at some point, we're going to do Darkcast this month. So I got to figure that out sooner or later. Anyway, that's it for now, though. Thanks for listening. Thank you for the support. We'll see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smart Out moment, and we're being counted out.